Hey now, everybody, we're back for another edition of Scl Weekly, number 6 episode here. We are having an awesome time here. We had an awesome week out on the West Coast at Willow Springs, and the Indy cars were at Motegi. We had an awesome run there for our little West Coast swing there. So, yeah, we had an awesome week. We're going to get you all wrapped up. Another awesome late model event at Creative Tracks, and we'll just roll on right through it here. We have Carlin Hicks in studio here, coming live from Texas. You want to say hi to Carlin?
How you doing there, drivers?
Drivers, officials, everybody listening.
And fans.
And fans. We might have a couple fans there. We don't have any official viewers yet, but you never know. We might eventually get some viewership and, hey, some sponsorship. We could have this thing rolling big time. No, all right, so we got our first race we're going to recap here. That is obviously our Winston Cup Top Dog Stock Car Division. They were running out on the West Coast during the Winston Western 200. And with our review of the event, Carlin Hicks.
All right, fellas. The Winston Western 200, of course, is one of our major events. We've run it for a long time. It's kind of our riverside race, if you want to call it that. Willow Springs bears a passing resemblance, located in the middle of the desert as it is. But it was a great race. The Wokie, not surprisingly, taking the win here with longtime former Winston Cup champion, I believe, season 8, way back in the day, Tony Moose in second. Colio wound up in third. Gooch in fourth, and myself, Carlin Hicks, taking the top 5. Only 9 starters really in this race. A lot of the part-timers won't roll their equipment out for this one. It's not going to get a 15-car full room like you would at Daytona, but still, it was a great race. The story of this one was we were clean and green from the beginning for the first 60 of the 80 laps and the first 150 miles. And basically that enabled a Wokie to put a lap on the field, getting out front early and running like in the clear like he did. We wound up lapping the field. And the race was really coming down to guys who had made mistakes. Kip had a lot of trouble early in the race and took himself farther back. He's definitely contended in this race before. Similar with Vinny and Johnny Benson there, I'm sure. And we got up to around the 50s, around lap 60, and what wound up happening is we had a caution right around the 150-mile mark, and that put Tony Moose with the lucky dog and bunched the field back up. And we ended up with started to get cautions breeding cautions just because we were back in the group and it was getting late. The guys were driving real hard at that point, but the real move of the race was a few laps after that caution. The second one came out. I was in third. We were racing back to the line, and myself and Roland, and we were fighting each other so hard to get back to the line to get that lucky dog. Colio snuck up inside of us and wound up taking it and getting back and managing to stay on the podium.
Line, too. He just right at the line. Lucky dog.
Oh, yeah, he just got us at the line. I really didn't see him as I was trying to deal with Roland. It was an awesome move. This was one of those races for me where I was looking at, racing for the podium and had to fight my way up to 5th. But, it was a great race, and we wound up with the top 4, wound up getting the lucky dogs and being on the lead lap. Basically, this race was Andy running quick. Tony was real consistent. And then everybody from 3 on back, it was really how things played out for you under the caution.
Everybody made mistakes, though. Even Tony, he ran off the track, I think, 3 times. Colio did. Let's say Roland, Gooch, everybody was running off the track a little bit. I think the only person that didn't really do that is Iwaki do it at all. He was just running those killer lap times every lap.
Oh, yeah, he was just tearing it up as he always does. And, we were just chasing him. I know that I stayed pretty much on the track in that race, but it was, you got to sacrifice some of your speed to do that. And it was one of those where everybody, Colio really had a great drive because he had a lot of errors early in the race. And I think he was running back in 7th or 8th at one point, and he fought his way up through the field and then took advantage with that great move. And, I was happy to get a top 5. I was runner-up here last season. So, just get running well in this race. As I said to the guys that were there, you're the diehards that are out here running this one because it's not easy. And I think it was really what it was. It was a great race, wide open. we had at one point before the caution, Wokey came out of the pits, was looking to put another lap on the field, but he had 2 through 5. We were stuck together for about 20 laps. We were all in a chain, and one guy'd make a mistake, and the 3 would pass him. He'd fall from back to 5th, and then we'd scramble each other up coming into the pits, and strategy played a big part. Would have been interesting to see how it played out, but Wokey got the win, and with the lead he's got now in the Cup Series, with that win, he's looking for that 6th Winston Cup title in the last 9 seasons, dating back to his first one in season 10. And, he's got a small lead over Colio, 6 points. Myself and Tony coming up a little farther back. It's going to be tough to catch Andy with 3 races to go, though, that far back, especially with one of them being a road course race. And I believe there's 3 or 4 races left. And 3 races left, and it's going to be a shootout. But I think Colio, the 2-time defending series champ, has the best shot of him. If Colio can run, at least top 2 at Suzuka, and then try to take advantage of Indy and Motegi, we might see that. But for the rest of us, we would need, and Wokey and Colio are going to have engine trouble or Daytona, or late in the race Daytona-like problems for us to really get back into it. But it's going to be a scramble. I mean, it's still a tight championship for what's a short season this season. It's going to be shorter than we've had in a long time.
Yeah, Walkie's doing really good. I mean, he really focuses on these points races and does awesome on them. He does awesome on the non-points race, so, I mean, you could catch him at Greenville either. So some people say that he just is another driver out on the ovals. That's not true either, because he really puts forward a good effort, and I don't know how he does it, but everybody.
Well, it depends on the track. No one's taking anything away from Andy running on an oval. He's fast at Motegi, fast at Indy, wins poles. You can race him if he's in the pack. He's another driver in the pack. But once he gets that lead, it's hard to make up any time on Wokey one-on-one, especially if you're not directly in the draft. So you have to, when he qualifies well, he takes off, and that's what he did at Greenville. It's what he did at Willow Springs, and you really got to get a jump on the restart or on the start with a Wokey to have a shot at him. As with a lot of good drivers, you can't let them kill you on the start.
Nope, they've been getting down them neck. He was doing really good the whole weekend. He really performed well in the Camel GT. So let's talk about that IndyCar race they had out there in Motegi. Speaking of oval track, I guess you guys had a real barn burner out there for the Bridgestone 250.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about it last week. We came into that race knowing that, we were going to catch up on Colio and J-Dog. We had to do it now. And as it turns out, I was fortunate enough to win it. J-Vic in second, Colio right there on the podium, DW McFreak fourth, and Kip fighting his way back up to fifth. The story in this race, Super 8 got the pole with a fantastic qualifying run. And he was definitely going to be a contender. But this race had a long green flag run to the end of the race, and it really came down to strategy. Super, he had the worst luck. He got a lag bump that shot him out of the draft early towards the midway of the race. And, early towards the midway of the race, and that's really what took him out, put him back to 6th. J-Dog, he had some trouble early in the race, right up there, second in points, and really didn't have a good race. I think he caught the wall a couple times. Remy ran spectacularly. He fought himself up from a 10th place starting position, was in the top 3 most of the race, and then he actually had his wheel dismount as he was making his final pit stop. He literally had steering column failure coming into the pit. Wheel in his lap coming into the pit. So that's what took him out of it. But the biggest surprise to me was Kip. I was running a different pit strategy than some of the other guys. Kip was right in front of me after I'd made a pit stop, and he went to turn to the pits, and he caught that old pit wall, the old shine wall. And that's something, 4-time defending series champ, you don't see much. And from that point on, it was, a matter of really it was myself, Freak, Jay Vick, and Remy were up front. Remy had his problems. Freak fell back near the end of the race. He's getting so close to being on the in victory lane. It's not even funny. But at the end of the race there, what happened? Me and Vic, we qualified exactly the same exact time. Matter of fact, me, him, and J Dog, we had 3 cars at an oval qualify at the exact same time. That's something else. But we came out of that last stop. Me and Vic have raced each other for a long time, and it's always been neck and neck. And we came out of last stop, and I had a slight lead coming out of the pit. And I had to do a stretch run on the last run. And I came out, and I looked behind us, and there was, had all the car, had 3 through 6 or whatever been lined up together in a draft formation, I would have probably let off and waited for Vic and tried to say, okay, we'll try to guarantee our spot in the front 2 and then race for on the last lap. But I came out, they were spread out, and I decided to go. And I just happened to have my car with the perfect balance I wanted of the fuel weight and the tire and everything, combined with the fact that Vic's been running part-time probably and isn't as sharp as he normally is, and I was able to stretch that lead from 1.5 seconds to about 3.5 seconds. But I'll be honest with you, those last 5 or 6 laps, I was really hanging on. I wanted to run high to save the tires, but I was losing too much time, so I still had to kind of burn them, and the lead chopped down to 1.1 seconds by the end of the race there, and I was just hanging on towards the end, but I'm very happy to get it. That's my 10th win in the IndyCar Series. I'm really thrilled, and really I got lucky that a lot of guys had trouble, and then happened, you make, like we always say, you make your decision, you make your call in the race, and you hope it's the right one. And this is a situation in which, for me, it was the right one, and it worked out for me. But it really jumbled up the points. Colio's now got the points lead through 3 races. He's 10 points out on top of J-Dog and myself, who are tied in second. And with 4 races to go, it's still pretty wide open. Kip's, if he's going to get that 5th straight championship, he's going to have to start making up ground. He's 19 points back now. I would say that everybody back through 6th is still very much in the championship. For Gooch or Remy to catch up, they would need a lot of help. But I think they're just focusing on the Indy 500. They're the last 2 champions of it. Really, Indianapolis, this week, Indian Mountain, obviously, but we've got the time trials coming up next week, and then Indianapolis 500 in a few weeks, and that's always a scramble race, and we'll just have to see. I mean, I know that in my case, I was able to do what I had to do and make up some ground. Kip's going to be looking to do that over the next couple weeks, and it's still wide open, but we're just going to have to see how it comes down. Colio is running really, really well, but there's a long way to go. We'll just have to see. It was a great race at Motegi.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week coming into Indianapolis qualifying the week after. So we're going to our Indian Mountain track that's similar to Pocolo, so it's close. Kind of get a shakedown on a bigger track there for your Indy cars, run down the straightaway real fast, and get ready for Indy. It's going to be a big week, the week of the 500, with the first time ever running the Brickyard 400 the exact same week. So it's going to be a big week at Indy. We're all gearing up for Indy. That's our next big point week.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that was a good race in the Indy cars. Let's talk a little bit about the Wednesday night Camel GT racing. Everything's called Winston around here. Camel GT racing. That was awesome. Out on the West Coast there. Let's talk a little bit about our California Grand Prix. Let's go ahead and recap that a little bit. It was more of the same from our regular drivers. With a little recap here. Carl and Nick, talk about it.
All right, California Grand Prix at Willow Springs, round 3 of the championship. After that big mix-up at Indianapolis 2 weeks before, it made it a big points race, big points weekend. And it was a great race. The Wilkie wound up taking the win. WCC, the impressive new rookie, with another runner-up finished to him on the podium, and myself, Carlin Hicks, wound up in third, Gooch fourth, Roland fifth. And a good friend of mine, Speedway Boogie, who runs, I'd basically call him he runs what I would call the GT6 high-speed ring track championship. He runs a series of races, rooms, open entry, open lobbies for at high-speed ring, and runs a real good race. I've had him occasionally come into a SCL event. He came in and qualified second right out of the box in the Corvette Z06. And he was excellent. He obviously has a learning curve as far as running these longer races, but a sixth place finish for him was excellent. We had a fine race altogether. Wolf was just fast. WCC was fast. I managed the podium by being consistent. I don't think I was off the track. I had one spin coming out of the pit, and found out at the end of the race that, with the trouble WCC had up front at times, I might have been able to have second if I hadn't made that mistake. But those two up front were lightning quick.
But it was kind of fun having WCC baseball in there as a rookie, and I think this is really the first time where he's really seen a walkie shine like that. And he was kind of coming over the mic, and he was like, "Man, how's this working? Like, he's got the same car as I do. He's just killing me out here." And we're like, "Well, that's Milwaukee. We got something to learn
absolutely.
here, rookie."
Yeah, we love bringing in, WCC is one of those GT Planet road racer guys. And for road racing, that's the top of the mountain, just like for super speedway racing, SCL's top of the mountain. So we love having those guys in here. And WCC can definitely give a Wokey a run for his money and can win a race. Just like we've seen Colio or Stay Down or somebody, occasionally get a shot at a Wokey, but you have to be perfect. I mean, I run a perfect race at one of these, and I'm a minute behind the Wokey. I ran a perfect race, last season at high speed ring and finished second to a Wokey by 12 seconds, which to me was just, a huge accomplishment. So it really, you have to run the perfect race because Andy goes fast. He doesn't make mistakes. And WCC made too many mistakes in that race to really have a shot at winning, but it was still a great performance at second. Gooch.
Top four are the exact same as they were at Daytona.
Yeah, exactly.
The same second time the WC Baseball ran second, and it was kind of funny because he was like, "Yeah, I did the same thing in the Daytona Continental." He was bitching about it a little bit, but it was fun to hear a rookie kind of be exasperated how good the Milwaukee talents are.
We love having a walkie in those races to show the guys the level of competition that we do have in the field. And, I know from my own perspective in that race, it's not, I don't have the pace that the front runners do. I try to run consistent, and like you see in the Daytona race and in the California Grand Prix, it worked out for me. Same thing with Gooch. It's just Gooch has got probably a little better pace than I do, but I'm a little more consistent. When he runs a consistent race, he'll usually steal that podium spot from me. So it really depends on, how the season goes. And the team championship's bigger in this series, I think, than in the NASCAR. That's a sports car tradition. And I don't see it updated as of yet, but the, that's going to be pretty close. I've been having, I think Gooch and Milwaukee are looking to defend that title, and with them finishing as well as they have, they're more than likely in that points lead.
Yep, they're doing well. That's your top five in the points. It's currently Milwaukee with a pretty good lead over Carlin and WC Baseball. Those guys are fighting for second, and Gooch is not that far behind. I'm currently tied for fourth with Gooch there, but he's got more top five, so he can go ahead and take it. But that's awesome racing going on in the Kimmel GT Series. I think everybody has a good time at those races, and we'll be at Long Pond.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll be at Indian Mountain for that race.
Yep, another Indian Mountain race. We'll go ahead and keep it in the road course family out there on the West Coast, and we'll go ahead and talk about the Grand National Division race that we had on Saturday night. That was an awesome race out there at Willow Springs too, wasn't it, Carlin?
Oh, absolutely. Golden State 150. Max Payne, the rookie, he also has the one at Laguna Seca and Indy Lights earlier this season. He's another one of those GT Planet Road Racers. Max wound up with the win. Gearhead got second. That was Tony Moose subbing for him that took the second. And I wound up in third, rolling fourth with DW McFreak fifth. Freak won the pole. He ran an absolutely blistering lap time in qualifying and won I believe it's his first pole on a road course in the STL. And, he was fantastic on the qualifying. And then we got in the race, and this was a race that, from my perspective, Max and Tony were the fastest guys on the track. But pit strategy was very interesting. We had a long green flag run. I would like to think that the strategy I had, I might have had a shot at winning based on, what was going on in the race. We had a caution with, about 15 or 20 to go, I believe, that slowed that down and got the field back up. And one-on-one, Max and Tony were gonna pull out away, and they did. And there was a great race at for the finish at the end of the race there. As a matter of fact, Tony deserves a lot of credit. Near the end of the race there, they were racing for the win, final couple of laps. Just like me and Roland were racing for third behind that. And Tony, I believe, rubbed fenders with Max, got him a little squirrely, almost spun him out. And Tony checked up and let him gather it together. And that gap of 9 seconds that you see on the standing there, that's only because of Tony tried to cook it real hard at the last turn on his last shot. He was right on his bumper. It was a classic gentleman move, because the truth is, I know as a driver, an incidental contact like that, you're not deliberately hitting somebody. I'm gonna beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. If I got into you and I passed you and won the race, I'm gonna say, look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it, but that's racing. Tony was a class act in letting, Max gather it up, and, he deserves credit for that. He held on for the win.
Tony told me that he thought he could have won it after he got into Max and dumped him off there going into turn 3, I believe, but he said he didn't want to win it that way, and he wasn't going to, so he let him get all his time back up, and Max Payne ended up whooping him at the end, but Tony didn't want to win that way. And
that's a champion.
For it. That's true.
Yeah, Tony's a champion, and that's
there.
Yeah, Tony's a champion, and that's how a champion acts. And he did that with a rookie too. And it wasn't with one of us. I wouldn't have been surprised. But with a rookie, it was a class move, and Max ran a great race. He's a little inconsistent here and there, but pace-wise, there's no arguing with it. If Max gets it together and stays on the track, he's going to be up there in all the road races. And congratulations to him for getting a victory in the Golden State 150. It's not easy. I had won the Winston West race earlier that day with a smaller field, and it's no picnic, any one of the races at those tracks. And it's just another one that scrambles up the standings a little bit. Roland with the win at Daytona is right ahead of Gearhead, just 2 points between himself and Gearhead with that sub finish that Gearhead got. And you got the rookie Twindy just being consistent. He stole a top 5 at one race, and with the budget racing, he's sitting there in second or in third place in the points, just ahead of myself and Super, as we're trying to go for the team championship here and looking pretty good for it. Still wide open. There's only 5 races in the championship, so 3 to go. I don't think that any of us back to the last 6 or 7 are completely out of it necessarily, but Roland and Gearhead are leading the way right now. And I know definitely going into Indianapolis week, myself, Super, Max Payne, if Cat Guy decides to race that one, we're going to have to make up some ground, thanks, in that race after we had some Daytona trouble. So I think Roland's in the driver's seat, and as consistent as Roland is, I'm not sure he'll make the mistake that is necessary for us to catch him. But and Gearhead doesn't have another Daytona where he's an ace at. So I like Roland at this point in the series, but we're going to try to catch him, and it's going to be a great run to the finish.
And coming over the rumor mill, I've heard that there might be a Indy 500 ride opening up for Max Payne. That's just a little rumor that I've heard rolling through the garage area in the SCL. So we'll
Max definitely wants to race
closer.
IndyCar, yeah.
We'll get closer to the Indy 500. We'll talk about that a little more, but that's a little teaser for our Indy 500 episode. Yeah, we had an awesome race in the Grand National. You know, it's always fun out there at the road courses. But speaking of fun, Carlin, we got to talk about how we had our racing here at the at our racetrack at Dixie Union. There, that was a awesome race. Our Rebel 100. You want to do a little recap of that race?
Absolutely. The Rebel 100. There were only 5 of us in the field, being a non-points race and running opposite the the real life Daytona duels. I'm not the least bit surprised that we didn't have a huge field, but it was nonetheless an excellent race. I mean, you had 2 former Winston Cup champions, the 2-time Indy 500 champion. You had plenty of talent in the field. And it was a great race, and Tony got the win, and I wound up in second. I believe Johnny wound up in third. I know the way I ran the race, the first segment I burned them. Wanted to see how hard it would go, ran up towards the front. That's the interesting thing about Dixie Union. It's a 1.45-mile speedway. We talked about it in last week's show from the G&D race there. It's one of those you can go fast or you can conserve, and the first segment I raced hard, burned the tires up. The second segment, myself and Super laid back.
You and Tony.
Me and Tony, you're right. Me and Tony laid back. Super was hard on the second segment. And we basically, that's the thing about having a guy. That's why I love racing with Tony. And if he wasn't in an ironclad Benson contract, I'd be on him like, white on rice, because you can run. I knew what he was doing. He knew what I was doing. And we used each other to pace each other. We didn't, that's what happens in the LMS races a lot of times. You'll wind up, you want to save tires, but you'll run the pace of the front runners, just trying to stay with them. But I was running with Tony, and Tony's a guy I know he's not going to race. He's not going to pull himself out of the contention. So we stayed right at the same pace with each other. We used each other to kind of gauge how hard we should be pushing. And by the end of the race, we had the tires left to make the move. And I know the last lap in turn 1 and 2, I made my move on the outside and made it stick. And I was going down into 3, and I couldn't tell you what happened from there. I wound up in the outside line, and I gathered it up, and we drag raced down the front stretch, and Tony wound up taking the win. But, that's racing in a tight turn.
Well, I'll tell you the other side of it. Like you said, you're trying to stay up with the leaders, but also conserve your tires. And that's kind of what I was doing up there, staying with the leaders. Super and J-Dog were pretty much in that bottom lane, wearing their tires out neck and neck. And I was in the outside groove. That's really a 2-groove racetrack there at Dixie Union. And I was up in that outside groove, kind of on the J-Dog's rear quarter panel. And Super was locked in there. And we were in that formation for maybe, 15 laps, a long way at the end there. And I was kind of pinning both of those guys down low, so they were having to use their tires as I was saving my tires the best I could with staying with them at the end there. And obviously you guys got almost a half straightaway back at one point, saving your tires, you and Tony. And then you guys came racing there at the end, and Carlin, you ended up getting past me. I saw you guys coming, so I ditched those guys, and their tires were poop after running on the bottom line. So J-Dog and Super drifted to the back, and I seen you guys coming, so I started trying to cook my tires, get as far out ahead as I could. And eventually you got around me, Carlin, there, and on the last lap, and then going down into 3, I just had enough where I could run it real hard, real deep. Even you said, man, how'd you get that deep in the corner? Real hard, real deep, trying to give you that bumper, a little bit of a chrome horn there on the last lap. And I think you left me a little bit of room there at the bottom, because I was ended up to get my fender right to the left of your car, the rear quarter panel, and then we ended up sliding up the track there as we made contact, slipping and sliding up the track. We were both trying to gather it up. Your tires were obviously a little bit better, but you had pretty rough tires too. And Tony, he just snuck right underneath both of us as we were both sliding up the track, and he just went on and got the win. But I think if you guys would have maybe put it in drive a lap sooner and tried to make your run, you would have been so far out in front of me that I wouldn't have been able to catch you. But I just barely had enough to get to your bumper. It was kind of like one of those Dale Earnhardt, Terry Labonte, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Gordon at Bristol kind of things. Just barely get there, enough to rough you up, get you loose. I didn't wreck you, but I was trying to get to the win. Obviously, on the last lap, everybody's got to do what they got to do. And Kyle Petty just asked through there in that 42 car and got the win. Awesome run for those guys. But I know you know how those races go.
No, I know how it goes. I was running the fast line. I knew I was arcing it. I'm an arc. I take corners on arcs rather than diamonds. Everybody knows that. And I took my quick line because I thought I was far enough ahead I wasn't going to get it. Now, normally I would try to get square with you so that if you give me the bump, we're square and it's not going to knock me loose and I'll be able to hold the line. But I thought I was enough ahead to where I was going. And the truth is there's two factors there that, the guys who watch the broadcast and take notes, get your notebooks ready. There's two things there that I learned in that race that were very interesting. Number one is you said that, we waited until the last lap. That's not the truth. We started pushing with 5 to go. Once we went, actually with 4 to go.
Well, I'm saying you probably could have waited one less lap and been able to get farther out in front of me.
Yeah, but it took us it's a late model car, not, a cup car or something. It took us a few laps to really start to dial it in and take advantage of the tire and get back up there. It takes a long time to set up your run in a late model. And so it took us 3 or 4 laps to get to where I probably would have wanted to have made the move earlier, but I would have had to start earlier. And that was the one thing. The other thing is that whole strategy that we did was great. That's not going to work in a 15-car late model race, points race, because you can't. We couldn't have fallen that far back and not lost too much track position with 10, 12, 15 cars in the room, because you got to be in the top 4 or 5 to have a shot at the end. You're not coming from 10th.
You guys only had to pass a couple of cars on really old tires with J-Dog and Super, and once they were out of the way, then you only had to battle with me. You're not going to get around 10 cars.
Yeah, you're not doing that from 10, 12 cars back. So we were able to get an advantage that you're not going to be able to do in a full-on points race. And that's really what's interesting about that race. It would have been, we wouldn't have been able to do that, but it made that particular race fun. I don't see that happening with any more than 7 or 8 cars in the field. And there's very rarely is there less than 12 or 13 in a late model race. So that was kind of a one-time thing, I think, getting to do that. I kind of knew that. I really just wanted to run that race to test the tires and see exactly how, and the truth is there was some difference. I could drive the car differently and get a big difference in terms of how my tires wore. So it can be done. If you're having trouble burning your tires in late model, test sessions, boys. Get out there, run that segment, and run it differently every time and see how far you can take them, because there is something to be learned there.
Yeah, it's always fun on the late models, with the I believe they're called the Can-Am duels now. Those were kind of conflicting with our night there, so we had to swap up our schedules a little bit and run the Rebel 100 last Thursday. That kind of killed our attendance, like you said, and it not being a points race, kind of a perfect storm for a small room there. But all those drivers did real good. It was kind of Benson Speed Equipment versus JME there. And, it was a great race. I think we learned a lot, and we're definitely going to be way quicker when we do get a lot more people on that Dixie Union track. But they are going into the Jag 100 this Thursday, and let's talk about that a little bit. That is our one and only points event this season, or this week, I believe, with the exception of Indy Light.
Yeah.
Indy Lights is also going to be a points event. But our Jags 100 is going to be awesome there. That's our I think we go there twice. Our first stop to Motegi before the season championship, so it's kind of a shakedown for those guys that are going to run for the championship here. But our Jags 100 is going to be an awesome event. We've also already got some good drivers signed up for there, Roland, Twindy, One Shoe, Smoking Rock, J-Dog. So we've got a lot of guys already hooting and hollering, waiting to get this second points event of the year in. Like we said, it's going to be two 29-lap segments, so it's going to be more of the same from Dixie Union. You got to save your tires and really play how you're going to use them in these segments as we do the segment races here in the late models. But what do you think, Carlin? I think it's going to be a real fun race up there. You know, kind of.
Oh yeah, 29 is a long way at Motegi, so you really do have to save your tires. You got to get the track position at some point, but not at the expense of not having anything to fight somebody with at the end of the race. It's a very difficult race for that reason. Even though the cars are the late models are obviously the 445 horsepower 2010 NASCARs, but this race is just this series is going to be very interesting. I mean, you got the five-time series champion Colio needing to make up a lot of ground, and it's a toss-up at the late model at Motegi. Everybody's going to be stuck in a group. Track position qualifying is going to be vitally important. If you can stay out of any trouble at the end of the first segment, have good starting position for the second segment, that's going to be very important. Just like every time we go there, and really as far as the late model championship goes, we can start to see how it looks after this race.
It's always a good show there. I think some of our regulars that run real good in the late models, Colio, and people like Remy, I think are really going to have a good shot at it here going in at this Motegi race. We'll take a little peek at the point standings here for late model. And right now, Gearhead is head of the hog after his win at Daytona. That's the only points event we got there. DeCamber obviously second, year third. Carlin going into Motegi. Me and J-Dog round out the top five with Norm and Super 8 smoking. Remy and Vindictive rolling up top 10. But a lot of guys outside the top 10 looking to get back in it, like Roland, Colio, Kip, one shoot right on down the line. We had an awesome event in Daytona. Obviously with Tony Moose showing up too, that's going to be sweet. So I think he is on schedule to make the rest of the Thursday night and Sunday night races. So, Tony Moose is going to be loose there at Motegi, and it's really going to be a good event. And with the point stand stacking up as they are, it should be a real shake-up for our second point event.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we've got those guys going on there at Motegi. Next week, we've also got Indy Lights are going to be running the Pork Barrel 50. Those are also at, let's see here, where are these guys racing?
Pork Barrel 50 is at Dixie Union Speedway.
Dixie Union, okay. So those guys are going back. I was a little incorrect there earlier in the show there. Those guys are at Dixie Union, and the cars are also at Dixie Union. They're going to be, I don't know, that was an awesome race in the late models. I can't wait to see what kind of show the Indy Lights put on.
Well, Indy Lights is going to be great at it. I haven't really had a chance to test it, but I've tested a lot of the Indy Lights cars in the past, and I've obviously run Dixie Union quite a bit this season. And that's just going to be a great race. It's going to be a pack race, just like Motegi. Don't make the mistake. You make the mistake that takes you out of it, you're not going to catch the pack by yourself. So you have to manage your car, hang out, and see how it goes at the end. And, it's a non-points race. Have some fun, get some data, and see if you can get your name on the trophy.
Yep, it's going to be fun there. Somebody's going to inscribe their name on the first ever Pork Barrel 50 trophy. Then Wednesday night, we're going to be running the Camel GT Pennsylvania Grand Prix live from Indian Mountain Raceway. That's going to be an awesome exhibition event there on the Oval. Try and see if we can put a little hurting on Milwaukee there at the Oval. That's going to be a fun event too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We ran an open test session just last night at Indian Mountain in the Camel GT cars. They got a slight restrictor plate on them, running with the soft tires, and it's going to be as long as we get the server issues are good, it's going to be an awesome race. The track is fast. It's a Pocono-like track, a triangular 2.5-mile oval. All three corners are different. Beware the tunnel turn. One of the most difficult part on the course, and the place where you really make your speed once you master it. I honestly think that Indian Mountain this week is going to be a winner for a track for us in the future, because it's got everything you want. It's fast. It's got technical turns. Drafting plays a key. Precision plays a key. I believe strategy is going to play a key. And I think the Camel GT race is going to set the table for the rest of the week. It's just going to be an awesome show.
Should be awesome, and you're mandating racing soft tires the entire event?
Yeah, racing soft tires, just like in a NASCAR. When the Camel GTs run an oval race, it runs with the exact same rules that we do for any of the other oval races. A set tire compound.
Yeah, regulated tire compound. You can't be switching it up to hard or whatever during the race.
Yeah, you can do that in the road courses, mind you, but not on
on the oval.
Yeah, not on the oval.
Yep, and then Thursday, like we said, Jags 100, that's going to be awesome. Thursday night, we've got IndyCar qualifying going up for the Keystone 250. Again, that's the same track as the Pennsylvania Grand Prix. The Keystone Indy 250 is going to be a good race because it's kind of get you ready for the Indy race. Then we have Indy qualifying the week after this.
I do agree with you there, Johnny. The Keystone Indy 250 is going to be a great race, just because not only, like I said, Indian Mountain's a great track, and I think at the end of this week, everybody's going to be in love with this place. And the IndyCar race is interesting because I do think that this is a track that is going to help get you prepared coming as it is before Indy. It's not Indianapolis. It's got different types of turns, but the way that you have to set up your passes, Indian Mountain's all about setting up your passes no matter what car you're in. You're not just going to blaze by somebody, go underneath them in the corner, because you're going to wind up side by side like that. And it's, you have to really be precise in setting up your passes, which is akin to Indy. And I think that I'm willing to bet you that all things being equal, whoever runs well at Indian Mountain, we can expect them to run well in 2 weeks at the Indy 500.
And Indy qualifying, it's different than every other track, with the whole carburation deal and set aside qualifying. Just kind of like the Daytona 500, it's our biggest race for the Indy cars, so they have a full week of qualifying and a whole big build-up to the event, and it's going to be awesome. When we get there, the Indy Lights are also going to be racing. So, yeah, should be good. They're going to be there in the Badlands 40. But we are getting ready for Indian Mountain and Motegi for the late models and Dixie Union for the other ones. I think we're going to have another good week, as we had an awesome week of racing. Just one little bit of news. We've had to suspend D-Dub 60 from the league. He failed a drug test, so that's going to be action detrimental to the league. So he is not going to let us come back. He's suspended indefinitely from all of our motorsports program here at the SCL. So just a little bit of news there. He was in intensive care, so we'll see what happens to him. He's on life support. But other than that, I think we had an awesome week. Just more of the same.
Yeah, Indian Mountain is going to be big in the Nationals and the Cup cars too. It's going to be a great week there.
Yep, Grand Nationals, they are awesome, and they're going to be running there in the let's see here.
Stanley 150 will be running on Saturday.
Stanley 150. There we go.
That, however, is I believe that's the improper number of laps that are put on that. You should have 62 on there on the schedule.
Okay.
For 150 miles. We have a misprint once in a while, folks. This is a lot of data to keep track of, but I believe it is a 150-mile race, which will be 60 laps. And then the Cup race on Sunday, the Long Pond 200, that should be 100, or 200 laps would be 82. A 2.5 mile, not a 1.5 mile track.
Yep, so we're going to have awesome 200-mile race there in the Long Pond and the Winston Cup cars also. So, yeah, like you said, much of the same. Our one big points event is our late model race, so I suggest you guys get your qualifying in the Sunoco qualifying pole day. As soon as we get that up, it's going to be, a big pack of guys, I think, running for this Motegi race, Carlin. That's the big race of the week.
Oh, yeah, it's the big one being a points race, and, the late models always, it's an entry-level series. We always get a couple of new guys in there. It's heavily stocked with rookies. You really learn a lot about how people are going to drive in that series. And, late model is a very popular series. And I think that the Motegi race all the more so. We're going to likely have a full room, and definitely put some time into your qualifying because you want good track position in that race if you can get it.
Yeah, and if you have a bad run in qualifying, you might not even make it into the show. So, speaking of show, we're going to wrap this show up. Well, I think we've had another broadcast here with help from my friend Carlin there. And any last words there, Carlin?
No, we'll just see you guys this week, and I'm happy to say, coming off of Willow Springs week where you're listening to everybody complain about the track, I really believe that PSN notwithstanding, that Indian Mountain's going to make a lot of fans. I think that everybody's going to really like that track, and we're going to have some great racing there this week.
Yeah, I can't wait to get there Sunday and run that big race out there in the Pocono Mountains. So for Johnny Benson and Carlin Hicks, we'll see you next week for the SCL Weekly. See ya.